If you've been trying to learn jazz guitar on your own and it's not working out, it's not your fault. There are certain fundamental truths you have to understand about learning jazz guitar that nobody wants to tell you. In this video, I'm going to show you what you really need to know and what you don't. There are some things that no one ever told me when I started learning to play jazz. Maybe people assume you already know it or that it should be obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me. But once I got it, it transformed my playing. And so I'm going to share these things with you today. The first thing you need to understand is that groove and feel is everything. It's the number one problem I hear with guitarists. They're just not locked into the time. I get it. I had the same problem. The thing is, though, without good time and feel, nothing you play will sound good. Now, in jazz, that means swing. And swing is an elusive concept. It's a feel and it can't be written down. While the eighths are uneven, it's not triplets. You can hear when it's wrong, but sometimes it's not tight, or maybe it bounces too much, or the accents are wrong. But there's also no one right answer. Listen to Fly Me to the Moon as I play it straight. Now I'll play the same melody, but I'm going to embellish it a little bit to make it swing. 1. Now, I would play this a little differently every time I play it, and that's something you want to practice. So where do you get this? Well, you get it from listening and digging the music. It has to be something inside you. You have to feel it. The downbeats, 1, 2, 3, 4. The backbeats, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, and even the upbeats. When you get this down, you'll have taken a big step towards being a real jazz musician. As Pat Metheny says, if you've got good time and feel, you can play just about anything. The next thing you need to understand is that the melody is the song. As guitarists, our job is usually to play the chords, so we often neglect the melody. But the chord progressions are common, melodies are unique. Whenever I learn a song, I learn the melody first. I sing it until I'm really comfortable with it, and then I learn to play it. And when soloing, I keep the melody in mind instead of the chord changes. Your solos will sound more connected to the song, your phrasing will be more natural, and even with the pentatonic scale, you can make this work. And, as a bonus, you won't get lost very often. So this leads to the next truth. You have to hear it to play it. You see, it's a lot easier to let your brain tell your fingers where to go instead of your ear. It's easier to teach, too. Here's an arpeggio. And let's go ahead and add an enclosure. Easy, and it sounds pretty good until it's time to use it, because then it never quite fits. And that's because just knowing where to put your fingers isn't enough. You have to know what you want the music to sound like, and then you have to be able to get your fingers to play it. But here's the thing. If you play things you really hear, you're going to sound better, even if they're simple. Now, there's a corollary to this, too, is that if you can't sing it, you don't hear it. So here are a couple of things you can do to improve this. First, listening. Your music is going to be a result of the unique combination of your influences. The more you listen and the deeper you listen, the more it's going to come out in your playing. The other thing is to be connecting the ears to the fingers. Some simple ways to do this include learning songs by ear, playing simple melodies, and sing everything. Now, by now, you've probably figured out that the notes aren't all that important. You see, teaching what notes to play is pretty easy. There's only 12 of them, and there's more or less a right or wrong to it. But playing the right notes doesn't make it sound like jazz. It's how you play them that counts. You need to play with a jazz style. If you play all of the right notes, but with a blues or a country style, it'll still sound like blues or country. So what we're really talking about here is using articulations and dynamics to shape a line. Earlier, I embellished the melody of Fly Me to the Moon. Now I'm going to add articulations and dynamics to shape the line even further. Now, in that example, I'm using 4 basic ideas: the scoop, the pull-off, the hammer-on, and the slide. And then also using dynamics to accent particular notes. It's very much like having a conversation. Now, you can learn how to do all of this with just the pentatonic or blues scale. It's a lot easier with 5 or 6 notes. The thing about the pentatonic scale is that there are really no wrong notes. Sure, there are a couple you may not want to land on, but just move to the next one and it's fine. Learning to handle this is good practice. So while there are no wrong notes, some of the right notes are missing. But once you have the style down, it's easy to add those in. And this comes to our last point. Now, have you ever sat down and just played and thought, wow, that sounded pretty good? But then when you tried to recreate it, you couldn't. The reason is you started to think. See, every great player will tell you that you can't think and play. You have to learn to trust yourself. You practice what you practice, and then when it's time to play, you play. So one of the things you need to do is make sure one practice session a week is just playing. Don't evaluate, don't work on anything, and then record it. The goal is to practice the mindset you need for a gig. So now I'm going to demonstrate what I'm talking about. I'm going to play a solo over Fly Me to the Moon, using basically just the pentatonic scale, maybe a blue note or 2 here and there. My goal is to play with good feel and style, develop some ideas, and to use my ears to guide the solo. I'll be thinking about the melody, not the chords, and then to avoid playing anything that sounds wrong. Now that wasn't a great solo, but it's not bad either. And if it sounds good to your ear, then it's a starting point for you. You may not hear more advanced concepts yet, but that's okay, because those are things you can learn. So as you can see, there's a lot more to jazz than just playing the right notes. It's about feel, style, and your own personal expression. But the real challenge with all of these concepts is that there isn't one right answer. That's why you need feedback from a pro, someone who can hear those details you might miss and keep you on the right track so you can play with confidence. That's why I'm excited to announce a new personalized feedback and guidance tier for my Patreon group. For just $10 a month, you can upload one video of your playing, and I'll respond with a video critique and solutions that will improve your playing right away. Plus, you'll be able to see the videos and responses for other members. It's a community of learners all helping each other. This is similar to how I helped students as a music professor for 30 years, and now I can do it for you. I'm limiting this tier to just 20 charter members to ensure everyone gets proper attention. So, if you're ready to level up your jazz guitar, you don't want to miss this opportunity. Click the link below to sign up today. So now, let's talk about a few things you don't need. First, you don't need to learn thousands of chords. Jazz musicians think in terms of chord types, not grips. So there are only 10 types of chords, and players like Joe Pass think of them as being just 3, major, minor, and dominant. Everything else is just a variation on the basic chord. You've probably played this, D, D sus2, and D sus4. Well, it's the same basic idea. We take a basic form and add notes to it. You also don't need to learn lots of scales. You can start with just the pentatonic scale, then the major scale, and then melodic minor. And that really is enough for almost anyone. And if you can't make these sound good, learning a new scale isn't going to help. You also don't need a lot of theory. You need to know the basics, keys, major and minor scales, how to spell chords. You also want to know the diatonic chords and functions, and a few other things. But you can learn almost all of it in just a few short months. You also don't need blazing chops. Jim Hall's business card said, can't play fast, won't play loud. If you can play eighth notes at about 160, you're doing fine. You may want to push it a little bit later. But you're not going to be running eighth notes because you've learned how to play phrases, remember? Short bursts are more than enough. The key is contrast. Finally, you don't need to practice 3 hours a day. If you're practicing hours a day and aren't getting better, you're doing it wrong. A lot of that time is probably being wasted. 30 minutes of focused practice will get you there. If you want to know how, check out this video.